time and who was one of the insiders in the crisis management group shaping India's response to this dastardly hijacking. One of the insiders who had a ringside view of all of those events is Mr. A.S. Dulat. He was the head of the Research and Analysis Wing, India's external intelligence agency, back in December of 1999 when the IC-814 hijacking happened. Thank you very much, Mr. Dulat, for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. I don't know if you've got a chance to see this series, but some of the criticism against this series is twofold. One, that it shows the hijackers in a very humane and rosy fashion, and it shows the government officials, the Indian government officials who were responding to that crisis as slightly bumbling and confused. Would you share that assessment, or would you have a different take?
No, you see, I haven't seen that whole thing. I've seen bits and pieces of it, so I can't really comment on that. But what happened is quite well known now. It's 25 years ago, a long time ago. And if there was bungling, it was while the aircraft was in Amritsar. And I've said this before, that we did goof up in the crisis management group. No clear decision was taken or could be taken. And then the plane flew off from Amritsar. After that, we had no control at all.
The series shows that the reason why the plane was not stormed in Amritsar or stopped from taking off from Amritsar was twofold. One, that the NSG commandos couldn't get there in time. Two, that the Punjab police commandos who were already there, they were not given any clear instructions to storm the plane. And the most important thing, I guess, from what happened on board was that one of the passengers was stabbed to death and the pilot panicked. Is that an accurate depiction of why the plane wasn't stormed in Amritsar?
No, I think what actually happened was that you are right that the Punjab police claimed that they had the capability to storm the aircraft, but they said obviously they couldn't vouch for how many casualties there might be. Now on that, nobody was willing to take a call. And you would recall that subsequent to the event, Mr. KPS Gill actually criticized the Punjab police for doing nothing. And I had a long chat with my batchmate, Amarjit Singh, who was the DG Punjab at that time. Mm-hmm. And he said that I was waiting for instructions from Delhi. And he said my chief minister, who was then Prakash Singh Badal, had said that he doesn't want bloodshed in Amritsar. And he says that the impression he got from the CMG also was that Delhi didn't want any bloodshed. So, which I think is a fair assessment of the DGs, because I was present in the CMG and no call was really taken there.
I do also want to ask you, the series shows at the very start one raw operative who was stationed in Kathmandu calling up Delhi and sort of forewarning about this hijack. Did such a thing happen at all?
Yeah. I've seen a bit of that. That's all bunkum, rubbish, total rubbish.
So when did you get to know of the hijack?
That whole thing about him, we got to know of the hijack when the plane was in the air after it took off from Kathmandu. I remember it was New Year's Eve and we had a little function at the R&AW. Mm-hmm. And one of our officers came, it was a little after 5 o'clock, I think. Mm-hmm. One of our officers came charging to me and said, you are required immediately at the CMG, the CMG's meeting and you are required there immediately. And that there's been a hijack. So then we all assembled in the CMG. I think everybody was there within about 20 minutes or so. But then after that, there was a lot of dilly-dallying on what could happen, what are the possibilities. Actually, I give full marks to the captain for having landed the aircraft in Amritsar, mm-hmm. because he was under a lot of strain and the hijackers were not being particularly kind to him or to the passengers. So he landed in Amritsar, which in a way was a godsend to us. And we should, in hindsight, I would say, even then one felt that we should not have allowed that aircraft to take off from Amritsar.
So all that this series shows about this raw operative based out of Kathmandu forewarning the bosses in Delhi that such a thing is going to happen, and then him coming to all of that is fictional.
I've seen that bit. Also that business of him bashing up Nepalese and this, that. This is all rubbish.
Okay. So when
hogwash, total hogwash. There's nothing of the sort.
When the flight took off from Amritsar, and I believe it went to Dubai and landed in an airfield there in Dubai, was there any attempt at that time to try and intervene or to try and storm the plane? Any conversations you can recall to that effect?
No, let me remind you that from Amritsar the aircraft went to Lahore.
Yes, correct. And thereafter?
No. And the Pakistani authorities were not allowing Devi Sharan to land. And he said, I have to land. If you don't allow me, then people will get killed because I'll be going into habitation, into buildings. So then they put on the lights of the airport and the plane did go to Lahore for a while before it took off, before it went to Dubai.
No, but in Dubai there was no communication or no attempt to reach out to the Dubai authorities to try and intervene in any fashion?
Oh yes, there was. There certainly was. And as a result of that, women, children and some elderly people were released, I think about 28 or so in Dubai.
Yeah.
And so there was communication, but the authorities in Dubai didn't want to go beyond the point, They said, this is what the hijackers are willing to do, and after that, you guys need to take off and buzz off from here.
And finally, when it landed in Kandahar, which was the next day, on Christmas Day, presumably, of course, India did not have any diplomatic relations with the Taliban at that time. Perhaps the only sort of liaison
contacts.
We
had no diplomatic relations with the Taliban, and our relationship with Pakistan was not particularly good.
Correct.
At that point of time, yeah.
It was right after the Kargil war. But when it landed in Kandahar, was there any attempt by RAW or any other agencies to try and reach out and engage the Taliban? Because the series seems to suggest that Mr. Mutawakil, who was the Taliban's foreign minister at that time, played an important role in securing the release of the hostages. Was that true?
Yeah, that's not really true. No. Not factually correct, no. In fact, I can tell you that the loneliest person during that 1 week from Christmas to New Year was Mr. Jaswant Singh. And he tried umpteen times to call Mutawakil, but Mutawakil would not take his call. Neither would the Americans nor with the Brits, because everybody was celebrating Christmas. And poor Jaswant Singh was, he was in a hole and he felt guilty, no fault of his, but he felt that, he couldn't get to anyone.
Like you said, on the 30th of December, the decision to release those three dreaded terrorists, Masood Azhar, Omar Sheikh and Mushtaq Zargar, you had the rather unenviable task of going to Srinagar and convincing Farooq Abdullah, who was the chief minister then, to do this. What was the kind of response you were met with?
Yeah. Now, firstly, it was not Srinagar, it was Jammu, because it was winter and the government was in Jammu.
Okay.
So once this decision was taken by the Cabinet Committee on Security, then somebody suddenly realized that, we would have to speak to the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, because 2 out of 3 were in Kashmir, lodged in jails in Kashmir. Mushtaq Zargar was in Srinagar jail, and the other fellow, Masood Azhar, was in Kot Balwal. So somebody needed to speak to Farooq. And I was told to go and speak to him. So I asked Mr. Jaswant Singh, I said, I'll go by all means, but please speak to him before I go there, so that at least he knows I'm coming. And Mr. Jaswant Singh spoke to Dr. Farooq Abdullah. And then I went back to my office and I called up Dr. Saab and I said, I'll be coming. And he said, come, be my guest. But I wasn't exactly his guest because he gave me hell for close to 3 hours there, you know. And he said everything that you guys are doing is wrong. And he banged the phone, he rang up Advaniji in between, he rang up Jaswant Singh in between, and he cursed the hell out of Delhi. That was it.
I want to get a final question from you. You know, was there any lessons learned from what happened in Kandahar? Because obviously there was a lot of flack for the government and the manner of its response, not just the fact that it was not stormed in Amritsar.
There'll always be flack for something like that. But I can tell you, and I've said this umpteen times, that our last chance was in Amritsar. And once the aircraft flew out of Amritsar, that was the end of it. So if there is any lesson to be learned, that if while you have an aircraft in Indian territory, don't let it go. But that's all. These things are easier said than done. There is one other lesson, and I won't call it a lesson, but that's the reality of what goes on in life and what happened. You know, after all this happened, the UPA government came, and this matter was raised in Parliament. And the UPA government said, we will never negotiate with terrorists. And I'm very happy to say that Mr. Jaswant Singh stood up and said, as a matter of principle, yes, we do not negotiate with terrorists, but there will be times when you will also have to negotiate. And he was absolutely right, because everybody negotiates. We talk big, but everybody negotiates. Even the Mossad negotiates, the Israelis negotiates, the Americans negotiates, everybody negotiates.
Okay. All right, Mr. Dulat, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us